Why do you wake up at 3 a.m.? The surprising truth behind those early hours. Have you ever found yourself waking up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling in the stillness of the night, wondering why sleep just slips away? You're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. What feels like a frustrating mystery is actually something far more common, deeply rooted in how our bodies and minds evolve with age. In today's video, we'll explore 5 little-known yet powerful reasons why so many older adults wake up in the early hours, often around 3 a.m., and what those awakenings may be trying to tell you. And trust me, it's more than just a quirk of aging. These early wake-ups often hold important clues about your health, your sleep rhythms, and even your emotional well-being. What you'll hear today isn't surface-level advice. It's grounded in science, physiology, psychology, and the natural changes that come with growing older. We'll talk about hormone shifts, subtle sleep cycle changes, physical discomforts, lifestyle habits, and the emotional echoes that rise when the world is quiet. And we'll do it in a way that respects your life experience while empowering you to reclaim your nights with more peace and understanding. So if you've ever sat up in the dark and whispered to yourself, "Why now? Why me?" You're in the right place. What you'll discover today might not just help you sleep better, but also help you feel more in tune with what your body truly needs. Before we dive in, if you've ever had one of those 3 a.m. wake-ups, type "me too" in the comments. Let's remind each other we're not alone in this. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more uplifting, science-backed videos coming your way every week. Ready? Let's begin with the first reason, one that's linked to a quiet hormone most people forget about. But it makes all the difference. Let's start with one of the most overlooked but scientifically grounded reasons why older adults tend to wake up around 3 a.m., a natural drop in melatonin production. Melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, is your body's internal cue that it's time to rest. It regulates your circadian rhythm, your biological clock that tells you when to wind down and when to rise. In your younger years, your body produced melatonin in strong, steady waves, helping you fall asleep easily and stay deeply asleep throughout the night. But as we age, melatonin production naturally declines. It's not a fault. It's not something you caused. It's simply part of your body's evolution. And this subtle hormonal shift can have a profound impact on sleep quality, especially in the early morning hours. By the time 2 or 3 a.m. rolls around, your melatonin levels may have dipped too low to keep you in that restful state. You might wake up, not because of a noise, a dream, or even discomfort, but because your brain has quietly transitioned out of sleep without enough melatonin to anchor you there. What makes this more challenging is how aging also increases sensitivity to light and environmental cues. Something as simple as a nightlight, a blinking alarm clock, or faint street lamp glow through the curtains can suppress what little melatonin your body is still producing. And that makes it even harder to stay asleep once you've stirred. Let's take Harold, for example. He's 72, and for most of his life, he prided himself on being a solid sleeper. But recently, like clockwork, he's been waking up around 3:15 a.m. Fully alert, not anxious, just wide awake. At first, he thought something was wrong. But once he learned about the natural drop in melatonin that happens with age, it clicked. It wasn't a failure. It was biology. So Harold made a few small but powerful changes. He dimmed the lights in his home an hour before bed, swapped screen time for quiet reading, and started taking a short walk after dinner to help his body reset its rhythm. He also began blocking out excess light with blackout curtains and turned off glowing electronics. The result? Fewer wake-ups, deeper rest, and a better understanding of what his body needs now. Here's what's powerful about this. When you realize your 3 a.m. wake-ups aren't your fault, but a result of natural hormonal changes, you stop fighting your body. And that opens the door to gentle, thoughtful adjustments that actually work. Try this tonight. Create a sleep-friendly zone by dimming the lights an hour before bedtime, staying away from phone or TV screens, and keeping your bedroom as dark and cool as possible. You can even talk to your doctor about low-dose melatonin supplements if needed. Quick question for you. Have you noticed yourself becoming more sensitive to light or screens at night? If yes, type "yes" in the comments. Let's swap tips and help each other sleep better. Ready to move on? The next reason may surprise you because it's not something you're doing wrong, it's your internal clock slowly shifting forward. Here's something most people don't realize about aging and sleep. It's not just about getting less rest, it's about your schedule changing. As we get older, our circadian rhythm, the body's natural 24-hour clock, starts shifting forward in time. This biological change is known as advanced sleep phase syndrome. In simple terms, you get sleepy earlier in the evening and you wake up earlier in the morning, sometimes much earlier. You might start noticing that you're dozing off during the evening news or waking up before the sun, even without an alarm. It's not insomnia. It's biology gently nudging your internal clock forward, season by season, year by year. Think of your body like a watch that's been gradually ticking ahead. Instead of falling asleep at 11 p.m. like you used to, you may now naturally drift off around 8:30 or 9. So by the time 3 a.m. arrives, your body feels like it's had a full night's rest, even though the world around you is still fast asleep. And this shift isn't random. It's tied to age-related changes in hormone production, brain chemistry, and environmental cues. What's tricky is that most of our lives are structured around later schedules, social plans, television shows, even family routines. When your body moves ahead but the world doesn't, it can feel isolating or confusing. Let's meet Charles, 68 and newly retired. His days are quieter now. He eats dinner around 5:30 p.m., watches a show or two, and is usually in bed before 9. At first, he thought he was just winding down, but after waking up fully alert at 3 a.m. every night for weeks, he began to worry something was wrong. Turns out it wasn't a sleep problem. It was a sleep schedule problem. With a few intentional tweaks, like reading a book in warm lighting, calling his daughter for a chat before bed, and taking short evening strolls, Charles gradually nudged his bedtime closer to 10 p.m. Within a couple of weeks, his wake-up time shifted too, and for the first time in months, he started sleeping until the sun came up. What can we learn from this? That your rhythm isn't broken. It's just operating on new timing. And once you recognize that, you can begin reshaping your evenings to fit this natural pattern. Think of it like tuning an instrument. It doesn't take much, just a few thoughtful adjustments to feel in harmony again. Helpful tip: if you've been waking up at 3 or 4 a.m., try staying awake just 30 to 60 minutes later than usual tonight. Read, stretch, or listen to soft music. Something calming, not stimulating. Over time, these subtle shifts can help push your sleep window forward. Question for you: have you noticed your bedtime creeping earlier over the years? Let us know in the comments with early bird if that sounds like you. We'd love to hear how your evenings have changed. In the next section, we'll look at something even more personal: how physical changes in your body can quietly interrupt your rest, even if everything else seems calm. Now let's talk about a reason that hits closer to home for many older adults. Those 3 a.m. wake-ups often come from something simple and physical: your body trying to get your attention. As we age, the chances of developing chronic conditions or physical sensitivities increase. But here's the thing: these issues rarely announce themselves with loud alarms. Instead, they show up quietly, often during the most peaceful hours of the night, when your body is still, your surroundings are silent, and your brain isn't distracted by the noise of the day. It could be something as subtle as joint stiffness, a tight back, or dry mouth. Sometimes it's as straightforward as needing to use the bathroom. And when you're in that quiet, hyper-aware state between deep sleep and light wakefulness, even a minor discomfort can be enough to pull you out of rest. Take arthritis, for example, a common condition among older adults. You might fall asleep comfortably, but after a few hours of lying still, inflammation and pressure in the joints can build up. It's not painful enough to wake you with a jolt, but just uncomfortable enough to push you toward wakefulness. Other health interruptions? Acid reflux can stir when you've eaten dinner too late or reclined too soon. Even a small dip in room temperature can disrupt sleep more easily in older age because your body becomes less adaptable to subtle environmental shifts. One of the most common culprits for men is nocturia, the frequent urge to urinate at night. As we age, the bladder becomes less elastic, and prostate changes can put added pressure on the urinary system. While during the day we're often too busy to notice, at 3 a.m. in a dark, quiet room, That signal becomes impossible to ignore. And let's not forget medications. Many older adults are managing prescriptions for blood pressure, heart disease, pain, or sleep itself. But medications often carry side effects that go unnoticed until they start messing with your nights. Things like increased urination, fluctuations in body temperature, or even heightened sensitivity to noise or light. Take Eleanor, 76, for example. For months, she was waking up around 3:30 every morning. She thought it was just aging until a conversation with her doctor revealed that one of her new medications was affecting her hydration and electrolyte levels, causing her to wake up more frequently. With a few small tweaks to her dosage timing and some evening habit adjustments, her nights began to smooth out again. Here's the bottom line. Waking up because of a physical issue isn't a failure. It's a signal. Your body isn't breaking down. It's communicating. And once you start listening, you can begin to respond in ways that bring healing and relief. Here are a few practical ways to ease these wake-ups. Keep your bedroom at a consistent, comfortable temperature. Around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal for sleep. Avoid heavy meals, alcohol, or caffeine within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime. Talk to your healthcare provider about the timing and side effects of your prescriptions. And if nighttime urination is frequent, ask about bladder-friendly strategies or whether your prostate health needs a check-in. Have you experienced physical interruptions in your sleep like this? Drop a 3 a.m. signal in the comments if this sounds familiar. We're building a community of people who understand what you're going through. Coming up next is something most people don't consider, but it plays a big role in how your sleep rhythm shifts as you age. Let's look at how daily routines, tiny habits you might not even notice, can quietly reshape your internal clock. Here's something most people overlook. Sometimes those 3 a.m. wake-ups have less to do with biology and more to do with your daily habits. Over time, small lifestyle shifts can quietly nudge your body's internal clock forward. It doesn't happen overnight, but gradually your evening routines start sending your brain messages that it's time for bed earlier, which means your body finishes resting earlier too. Think about it. Many older adults naturally begin winding down sooner in the evening, especially after retirement. You may eat dinner earlier, watch TV in lower light, and do fewer physically demanding tasks during the day. Add in reduced sunlight exposure or less time outdoors, and your body starts to interpret these cues as signals to begin the shutdown process well before 9 p.m. That means by the time 3 a.m. rolls around, your system has already completed its full rest cycle, even if your clock says it's still the middle of the night. Food timing also plays a role. Eating early can be a healthy habit, but if there's no light snack later in the evening, your blood sugar may dip while you sleep. That drop can trigger subtle discomforts that pull you out of deep sleep, even if you're not consciously hungry. Caffeine is another sneaky factor. As metabolism slows with age, even a cup of coffee in the early afternoon can linger in your system into the night, lightening your sleep and making you more prone to wake up at the slightest trigger. Let's take Walter, 74. A few months into retirement, he noticed his routine had shifted without him even realizing it. Dinner by 5 p.m., asleep in his recliner by 8:30, and in bed before 9 p.m. Before long, he was waking up at 3 a.m., fully rested but completely out of sync with the world around him. After some reflection, Walter began making small changes. He took a 20-minute walk in the afternoon to keep his energy up later in the day. He swapped dim lighting for brighter lamps in the evening, avoided naps after dinner, and added a light snack around 8:30 p.m. Within a few weeks, his sleep shifted naturally. No medications, no frustration, just gentle course correction. This is the quiet power of routine. Your body thrives on rhythm, and even the smallest signals, light, food, movement, can influence when you feel tired or alert. When those signals change, your internal clock does too. So what can you do to realign your sleep with your ideal schedule? Try this. Add 15 to 30 minutes of bright light exposure in the evening, especially if you tend to dim the house early. Take a short stroll after dinner to gently boost evening energy. Avoid caffeine after 2 p.m., even if you think it doesn't affect you. It likely does. And consider a light protein-based snack before bed to prevent blood sugar dips. Have you ever noticed your routine shifting without meaning to? If so, comment evening shift below. We'd love to know how your sleep schedule has changed. Up next, we'll explore something deeper, more emotional than physical. What happens when your heart or your mind is what wakes you at 3 a.m.? This next section may resonate more than you expect. Now here's something rarely talked about, but deeply felt. Sometimes waking up at 3 a.m. has nothing to do with hormones, light, or body aches. Instead, it comes from something quieter, something within. Your mind gently stirring, your heart whispering in the silence. As we get older, the noise of life begins to fade. The busy schedules, the endless responsibilities, they slow down. And in that stillness, emotions you've long tucked away can begin to rise. Regrets, memories, unresolved conversations, or even quiet questions about the future. All of them can find their way to the surface during those early morning hours. This kind of restlessness doesn't always feel dramatic. In fact, it's often subtle. You're not tossing and turning in panic, but your thoughts are softly churning. Maybe you're remembering a lost loved one, or wondering if you've done everything you hoped to do, or simply feeling the quiet ache of wanting connection in a world that sometimes feels too quiet. This isn't anxiety in the way we once felt it in youth. It's something deeper, more reflective. The mind drifts back through old chapters, friendships that faded, words that went unsaid, decisions made with the best intentions, but lingering doubts. And then there's loneliness. For many older adults, especially those who live alone or have experienced loss, nighttime can magnify the sense of isolation. The house is still, the phone isn't ringing, and even if the day was full of activity, the night brings space, and that space can echo. Let's take Gloria, 80, widowed, independent, and full of grace. She keeps her days bright with gardening, phone calls, and her favorite shows. But around 3 a.m., she often finds herself awake, her thoughts drifting to the quiet mornings she used to share with her husband. At first, she worried something was wrong, but over time, she came to see it differently. Not as a sleep problem, but as her soul asking for presence. So Gloria created a gentle ritual. She keeps a small notebook by her bed. When she wakes, she writes down whatever's on her heart. Not essays, just a few honest lines. She also started listening to soft instrumental music in the evenings and began writing postcards to old friends. Little acts of connection that give her emotions a place to land. Here's the truth. Your heart doesn't follow a schedule. It remembers what it remembers. It revisits what it needs to understand. And sometimes it simply wants to be heard. Rather than fighting these moments, try welcoming them. Ask yourself, what is my mind trying to tell me right now? Is there something I've left unspoken, even to myself?